Welcome to the Explainer. Hey, if you're a data scientist looking to really step up your game and make that jump into machine learning engineering, then you are in the right place. Today, we're digging into MLOps code templates. Seriously, this is one of those foundational skills that'll help you build smarter, faster, and just way more professionally. Let's get right into it.
So, does this sound familiar? You're kicking off a new project, and you're staring at a blank directory. You start copying config files from old projects, you're trying to remember which linters you're supposed to install, you're debating folder structures. It feels kind of like being an artist, crafting something unique each time. But you know what? That artisanal approach just doesn't scale. What if there was a better way? A way to get a clean, professional, best practices start every single time. All right, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the big idea, the MLOps assembly line. Then we'll dive into how templates become your project's blueprint, check out the must-have MLOps toolkit, get into the nitty-gritty of building a template, and, this is key, we'll talk about how to keep everything in sync long after you've started. Okay, so first things first. The most important thing here is a mindset shift. We need to move away from building these one-off, handcrafted models and start thinking about creating a standardized assembly line for all of our ML systems. The goal? Simple. Every single project that comes off this line is reliable, it's maintainable, and it's built on a rock-solid engineering foundation right from day one. So how do we actually build this assembly line? Well, we do it with a code template. And it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It is a blueprint for your projects. Think of it as a predefined, reusable structure that takes care of all the foundational stuff. We're talking directory layouts, configuration files, even setup scripts for your linters and testing frameworks. It's all about encoding your team's best practices before a single line of model code is even written. So why is this so critical for MLOps? Well, a few big reasons. First, templates standardize your best practices. This makes everything, and I mean everything, so much easier to maintain across a team. Second, they just flat out accelerate development because you're automating all that boring setup work. But honestly, the most important benefit, for me at least, is the third one. It promotes focused work. The template handles the infrastructure, so you, the engineer, can get straight to what matters, solving the actual business problem. Okay, so we get why we need templates. But how do they actually work? I mean, how does one generic blueprint magically transform into a specific, totally unique project? Well, the secret sauce is variables. It all starts with a simple file, usually called cookiecutter.json. You should think of this file as the public interface or the control panel for your template. It defines all the parts that can be customized. When you go to use the template, a tool reads this file and just asks you a series of questions. Hey, what's the repository name? Who's the author? You want to use pip or poetry? It's literally like filling out a form to kickstart your entire project. And what happens to those answers you gave? They get injected right into your project files. See those double curly braces? That's a syntax from a popular templating engine called Jinja, and it basically acts as a placeholder. So when you type in your project name, it gets slotted right into your configuration files, just like you see here. It's a really simple but incredibly powerful mechanism that turns that generic blueprint into your specific project. Now, to actually use these templates, you're going to need the right tools. And in the Python world, it really boils down to two main players you gotta know: cookiecutter and Cruft. Okay, so cookiecutter is the OG, the industry standard for generating projects. It reads the template and scaffolds everything for you. But here's the catch. Its job is done after that initial creation. It's a one-and-done deal. And that's exactly where Cruft comes in. Cruft is this essential companion that links your new project back to the original template. This link is the absolute key for long-term maintenance, letting you pull in bug fixes and improvements over time. So, here's the crucial takeaway. Even though cookiecutter is doing the heavy lifting in the background, you should always start a new project with the Cruft create command. Why? Because this is what establishes that vital link right from the very beginning. It makes sure your project doesn't drift away from the template's best practices as they evolve over time. All right, so let's talk about what actually goes into a great template. The design philosophy here is super important. A good template is defined just as much by what it includes as by what it deliberately leaves out. You're trying to provide the scaffolding, not a fully finished, locked-in application. You want to include everything that enforces quality and automates to common, tedious stuff. That means a make file or adjust file so anyone on the team can run tests with a single command. It means configs for linters like rough to keep all the code clean and consistent. A pre-configured PyTest setup so writing tests is totally frictionless. Of course, you'll add project metadata in the pyproject.toml file, and yeah, even starter CI/CD pipelines. You're basically giving the next developer a massive head start. Now, just as important is what you exclude. You have to leave out the actual implementation logic. No specific source code, no tests that are tied to one particular solution. The template provides the highway and the guardrails. It should never dictate the specific car that the developer decides to drive. That's their job. You can even get pretty clever with this by using something called hooks. A hook is just a simple script that runs right after your project is generated. So, for example, remember how we asked the user if they wanted pip or poetry? Well, if they chose poetry, a post-generation hook like this one can automatically go in and delete the now unnecessary requirements.txt file. It's a fantastic way to handle conditional logic and keep the final project super tidy. Look, creating the project is really just the beginning. The true power of MLOps comes from long-term maintainability. So the big question is, how do we keep all of our projects and that master template in sync as things inevitably change and hopefully improve?
This is exactly why we use Cruft back in the beginning. When you've made an improvement to your template, maybe you've upgraded a linter or you've fixed a pesky bug in a CI workflow, you can just navigate into any project that was created from it and run one simple command, Cruft update. Cruft will then fetch the latest changes, compare them to your project, and open a pull request with all the updates. It is an incredibly powerful way to manage improvements across dozens or even hundreds of projects at scale.
And here's a little pro tip for you. The absolute best way to improve your template is to actually use it. It's a feedback loop people often call dog fooding. You generate a new project to build a real feature. As you work, you'll find little friction points or new tools you want to add. Once you've proven that a change actually works in a real project, you backport it. You move it back into the template. This makes sure your template evolves based on real-world practical needs, not just theory. Finally, let's just quickly clear up a common point of confusion. Using a template is not the same as forking a repository. It's all about intent. You use a template to standardize the starting point for lots of new, independent projects. A fork, on the other hand, is for contribution. You create a single, related copy because you intend to propose changes back to the original. So, template equals standardization. Fork equals contribution. Simple as that. And there you have it. That's the power of MLOps code templates. They're the professional blueprint for turning that all-too-common project chaos into a standardized, efficient, and high-quality assembly line. So now you have the blueprint. The only question left is, what are you going to build first?